Matthias here. Guys, I apologize. I wanted to go ahead and put this up. Just bear with the sound if you can. The douche nozzles outside are still fucking working on the road, so anyway, I thought this was kind of important. You may or may not, but anyway, I wanted to go ahead and put it up. So, basically, I want to read you something that I found online today. Although it was written more than 50 years ago, yet I was really surprised at how relevant it remains today. I think it'll surprise you too. As you listen to these remarks, try to bear in mind that the sensationalism so many of us scorn in the present day's press is largely the result of one man's selfish and self-serving desires. Rupert Murdoch was unable to make a splash in the British press when he got a start, and his jealousy and contempt for what he considered the media elite ultimately culminated in a strategy whose aim was to scrutinize the personal lives of entertainers, educators, and politicians. Does this angle of reporting have value? In some cases, it indisputably does. More often than not, however, I think it is the same sensationalism I mentioned, and it is worthy of our scorn. Next time you find yourself thinking about how stupid Celebrity A is, how fat Congressman B is, or how ugly Professor C is, consider the pertinence of such filler to the actual news or content being presented. Consider the fact that the initial cause of such information appearing in whatever once well-respected broadsheet you read it in was the sadism of one little man, and that it began out of his jealousy and his inability to measure up. I would also ask that you consider these remarks when you find yourself sitting in front of your computer just after giving a long sigh, wondering what you are doing here. When you're wondering about your YouTubing, what's the use? This is true for the viewer, but even more so for the informative content provider. I think we've all felt it, and I know I have. It happens to those of us who examine human rights, like myself, science, like Wildwood Clare, corruption, like Coughlin, or even current events, like Zonstar. Before you decide to, as Agent of Doubt would say, commit YouTubicide, try to remember what I'm about to share with you. Your responsibility to your viewers with regard to information is yours to decide, but however you define that responsibility, embrace it. We can't do much for one another if we're only after the greatest number of views, much as a tabloid can't provide a great deal of genuinely useful information through sensationalism. I've found that the easiest way to be true to my viewers is by vigilantly being true to myself. What follows is the last bit of a speech JFK gave on April 27, 1961. The speech is called The President and the Press, and it was given in the context of the Cold War. As such, the challenge that Kennedy mentions here is the challenge that the Cold War presents to the program or the administration, the program of the administration, I guess you could say. Anyway, here we go. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, that being the obligation of the newspapers, an obligation which I share, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I'm not asking your newspapers to support the administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors, for as a wise man once said, an error does not become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign. It is close at hand and local. It means greater attention to the improved understanding of the news as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security, and we intend to do it. It was early in the 17th century that Francis Bacon remarked on 3 recent inventions already transforming the world: the compass, gunpowder, and the printing press. Now the links between the nations first forged by the compass have made us all citizens of the world, the hopes and threats of one becoming the hopes and threats of us all. And that one world's efforts to live together, the evolution of gunpowder to its ultimate limit, has warned mankind of the terrible consequences of failure. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent. Thanks for watching. Piece of shit. For I have complete confidence . Great time for the mouse to fuck up, wasn't it? Piece of shit.